I always find these stories concerning Nintendo and their anti-piracy measures and actions they take to be fairly interesting, especially because it sparks some intriguing conversations from you guys in my comment section. And hey, I do find it entertaining and interesting to read the things that you guys got to say about these kind of things. And today we're going to be taking a look at this article that was posted on Torrent Freak on November 24th, so a little over a week ago, that talks about Nintendo wiping piracy-enabling URLs from Google with anti-circumvention notices. I find this interesting because there's some kind of oddities here, some things that they're doing a little different than normal, certain things that they're targeting, and hey, why not share it with you guys and discuss? So let's go ahead and go through this. So Nintendo is structurally wiping piracy-enabling sites from search results. That's the thing. They're removing search results, and they're not doing their regular DMCA notices, which is just like a copyright notification, like, hey, they're infringing on our copyright. Remove this from the search results. We'll deal with this in the legal end of things. They're not doing that. And one of the reasons is because, we've looked at a lot of stories with Nintendo suing people, taking down websites. Even there was, Modern Vintage Gamer. He had an issue where Nintendo was filing copyrights against him when he was doing homebrew videos on the Nintendo Switch. I found that pretty crazy stuff. But yeah, if you look at this article on Kotaku, I don't like Kotaku, but it was the only example that I found that had some nice images here. They blocked a bunch of his videos for specific reasons, yet the specific reasons, there wasn't even footage in his videos concerning that. So Nintendo takes this kind of stuff extremely serious. Modern Vintage Gamer, he's not the only one that I'd heard of being targeted by Nintendo as far as YouTube goes, talking about Nintendo Switch hacking and homebrew stuff. But it's a pretty big example there. And now they're taking us to these search results. So they're using anti-circumvention complaints instead of DMCA complaints or notices to remove links to console jailbreaking software and flashcard adapters. So they're talking about like Team-Xecuter, which I've discussed this before to a small degree. I've had tons of companies say, hey, we want to send you this, either the Team-Xecuter style thing or knockoff ones or, different versions of these things. And I'm like, I'm not touching this stuff. First, I don't want to, hack or get any kind of homebrew stuff on my Switch. Not right now. I've spoken about this quite a bit in the past, that when a system is current and it's being sold, there's games currently being made for it, I don't want to, do anything with that. I'll wait until the end of its life cycle to start messing with it. That's just my decision. I don't really care if people want to install homebrew on their Switch. Doesn't matter to me, but obviously it matters to Nintendo. But I've always turned that stuff down. I'm like, I don't want it. I'm not doing videos on this stuff. No, just because I know how, even with me doing this video, it's like, will Nintendo target me just because I'm talking about this? Who knows? We'll find out. But the Team-Xecuter is one of the biggest targets. And then like the R4 cards for the 3DS and the DS, right? I haven't really kept up on those, but I know there's tons of different versions of the R4, which just lets you load up, DS games on your system. I'm not sure if you can load up 3DS games, but this is the stuff they're looking at. So let's continue forward. So they're talking about all these different lawsuits, which we've discussed as well, them suing people selling hacked, NES classics, Super Nintendo classics, loading up Nintendo Switches, which, yeah, I mean, if you're putting yourself out there and you get caught, that's on you, man. Be careful. Be careful. Nintendo's got them ninjas looking. But they also mentioned how earlier this year, Nintendo obtained an injunction from the UK High Court, which ordered local ISPs to block sites that enable Nintendo Switch piracy. So I know, with ISPs and whatnot in the UK, it's a little different. I'm not an expert on that stuff, but I've read a lot of articles with ISPs blocking a lot of different websites in the UK for reasons like this, and then just various other reasons that kind of don't make sense. Even to people in the UK, some of this stuff doesn't make sense. And I know Torrent Freak, they talk a lot about stuff in the UK, but this is specifically with Google. So this is like everywhere. Nintendo's just done. So what else do we got here? The problem for Nintendo is that this blockade that they're previously speaking about was limited to the UK, but now they found a different way of going about it to block it in the world. So the gaming company has sent hundreds of takedown notices to the search engine targeting thousands of URLs. These requests are not standard copyright takedowns. Instead, Nintendo flags the sites for violating the DMCA. It is part of the DMCA, but it's not a copyright specific takedown. It's an anti-circumvention provision. And the anti-circumvention provision for the DMCA in the US, essentially what it's saying in this Wikipedia article, just brought this up just to have a reference. No person, section 103, whatever, of the DMCA, no person shall circumvent a technological measure that effectively controls access to a work protected under this title. The act defines what it means in section 1201, whatever. As used in this subjection, to circumvent a technological measure means to descramble a scrambled work, to decrypt an encrypted work, or otherwise to avoid, bypass, remove, deactivate, or impair a technological measure without the authority of the copyright owner. A technological measure effectively controls access to a work if the measure in the ordinary course of its operation requires the application of information or a process or a treatment with the authority of the copyright owner to gain access to the work. Thus, if there is some technological measure that effectively controls access to the work, it is illegal to circumvent that measure. However, there are several exceptions to this rule, and the Library of Congress is empowered to create additional exceptions. We've done videos on the Library of Congress and some of the exceptions to this stuff in the past. It's been a long time. Maybe we need to revisit some of that stuff. But here we go. Distribution of circumvention tools. The Act also prohibits the distribution of tools that enable a user to circumvent access controls or controls that protect a right to the copyright owner or of the copyright owner. So access controls no person shall manufacture, import, offer to the public, provide, or otherwise traffic in any technology, product, service, device, component, or part thereof. Essentially, you can't make these Team-Xecuter things to sell it. You're using anti-circumvention to bypass what Nintendo's put into place. You're using it for nefarious reasons, right? So there's a lot more here. I'll put links to all this stuff if you want to educate yourself. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an expert in this shit. It's just interesting to me. But there's that. That's what they're using, anti-circumvention. They're saying that these websites are selling these products to circumvent, our systems protections and the code that we put in order to do things that we didn't intend for the system to do or to access our copyrighted games. Like the example with Modern Vintage Gamer and plenty of other YouTubers in the past was a lot of them, they weren't necessarily showcasing like, hey, you could download the newest Switch games on here. It was more of like, different features and different things you could do with the Homebrew and more of a discussion, not even a showcase of, hey, this is how you would get Breath of the Wild on there for free or Mario Odyssey on there for free. It was more so just talking about, hey, this is how we can, homebrew the system and do certain things. These are the features that are available. And Nintendo, they're done with it, right? So they also show on here a bunch of the sites that have infringing URLs, and they're mostly the Team-Xecuter stuff. There's some other things too. But Nintendo's technological protection measures, TPMs, ensure that only official copies of its game software can be played on Nintendo's video game systems. So even if you're using this to put like Nintendo 64 games on the Switch or homebrew games, like say a game that you made yourself, Nintendo's like, no, like don't do this. This isn't right because we know you're not using it for your own homebrew. You're using it to put our stuff on there. That's what they're afraid of. That's what they're trying to protect. The circumvention devices, products, or components offered at the reported links bypass Nintendo's technological protection measures so that users can play unauthorized copies of Nintendo's games that are offered unlawfully via the internet. So all these different links to Team-Xecuter and a few other ones they talk about with the R4 dongles and whatnot, with Newegg, how they were trying to take down a specific page from Newegg that had the R4 on there. Now, I mean, these things, it's kind of strange. The R4, I guess, for the Switch. Okay, I've seen some other ones where they were talking about like the R4 for the DS and whatnot. So there's tons of different things. Nintendo's, didn't they went after like, well, no, it wasn't Lixang. I always remember Lixang, but wasn't that more of a Sony thing? They were doing the the exporting of PSPs or something like that, and that got them in a lot of trouble. But they were also selling, you know, flash carts, like early type flash carts, stuff like that. Kind of got a little mixed up here. The same isn't true for many other pages. Most well-ranked Team-Xecuter URLs, including the homepage, have been removed from Google. The same is true for other sites such as USA Chips, ModSwitch, ML Games, and Funny Playing. I'm familiar with Funny Playing. I think they've hit me up a bunch. Maybe that's the company I'm thinking of that was like, hey, do you want to do a video on this? And I was like, hell no, bro. Step back. I ain't getting involved in Nintendo this way. I've already had my issues in the past. I'm not trying to have any more, especially not with Nintendo. So back up. Thank you, but no thanks, right? So the other stuff they talk about, whether the site operators agree with the takedowns or not, they are generally irreversible. Google says that unlike regular DMCA copyright takedowns, there's no counter notice process. So this is probably one of the reasons Nintendo's going about it this way, because there's so many sites out there that they can just do this and it's just removed from search results, and they can kind of, you know, wipe their hands clean of it for the time being. Maybe, you know, the biggest infringers go after them and take legal action if they're, you know, approachable, or, you know, they're able to be gone after. Some companies and some people. I don't know, what was the one website we were talking about not too long ago, ROM Universe or something? That fool, man, he's still collecting money. I actually got an email from like his mother-in-law. Can't give no names, but I got an email from that dude's mother-in-law or ex-mother-in-law about how much of a piece of shit he was and how he's done stuff like this in the past and taken money from people. And he has like free legal stuff. I don't know. It was a bunch of craziness, man. This world of Nintendo stuff brings out some craziness. I never did a story follow-up on that one because there really wasn't much to talk about. And when I read all this stuff from this woman, it was just like very angry. Like she was very angry at this guy, and she had seen something, an article or something linking to my video talking about it, and she thought she would reach out to me, which I don't know what her... I really can't think of what was her motives, because the stuff, like, there was a lot of stuff she told me and she was like, please don't share this. So it was like, why even tell me this stuff? Was it just she wanted somebody to talk to? I don't know, but it was definitely crazy. We may have to revisit some. I got to look at what that guy's up to, because I discovered a lot about him, found out who he was, pretty much where he's at. And I'm just surprised. Like, I thought it was just a big scam. And it is, in a sense, but the dude just doesn't give a shit. It's crazy, man. But back to this. While Google has voluntarily chosen to take the URLs offline, it is not required to offer a counter notice option. So the targeted sites are at a severe disadvantage. This means for right holders, this takedown route can be quite effective. Yeah, so that's the one thing that Nintendo's up to now, guys. Let me know what you think. I kind of went on a little tangent rant, whatever, you know. I'm not the best at the English words, you know what I'm saying, especially when it's like midnight when I'm recording this stuff. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Is Nintendo in the right to do this? I have my own personal feelings. I don't care about this Team-Xecuter stuff. I don't care about Homebrew on the Switch, but I understand the need in the end for stuff like this, because there's things we've talked about in the past, games just disappearing and we lose access to them. There's been some stuff in the news about, what was it, like some kind of Tron game on the PC that had some kind of DRM, and the DRM's expired and the game cannot be played any longer. So without modders, hackers, stuff like that, we will lose access to certain things. You're going to have your Switch. Who knows when, but at some point there's going to be where you can't access patches. You can't access certain features of a game, because a lot of games, there's that downloadable aspect of it. There's a lot of companies still, oh, we're not putting the full game on the cartridge. You're going to have to download it. And people are going to be shit out of luck on that. So how do we get access to that stuff? This is the groundwork to that. That's future-proofing our systems to allow people, who knows how many years in the future, who want to enjoy the games of the past. And with this digital era, it's just not going to be possible without stuff like this. So I understand Nintendo's position, but at the same time, I mean, in the current, you know, world we're in, with how games are delivered and distributed, we kind of do need these things to happen. You know, these kind of devices and this you know, the mod community and whatnot. just to be able to enjoy things in the future to come. Otherwise, you're just going to keep buying the same games. These companies will just keep re-releasing them, that kind of thing. I don't know. Share your thoughts down below. Really do appreciate you guys hanging out with me for this long-winded discussion. And with that said, I will catch y'all next time. Peace out. Bye-bye. Thumb, butt, and boom. Bye.